Hey guys, what's going on? Tom here with another tutorial type thing, and in this one, as you can probably see from the title, we are going to do some stabilization, more specifically warp stabilizer. Now, for those of you who don't know, warp stabilizer is this effect, or for some people plugin, because it comes with I think CS5 and CS6 versions of After Effects and Premiere also. But it's a plugin slash effect that pretty much stabilizes, obviously, your camera movements. Now, it does this in a few different ways. There's one way called subspace warp, which kind of distorts your footage, and there's another way called rotation, translation, and scale. I think that's what it's called, and basically what it does is it sees your camera movements and then does the exact opposite. So if I zoom out, I'm also going to zoom in, do the opposite of rotation, stuff like that. For this tutorial, we're going to be using subspace warp, just because I think it looks a bit better in my case. But yeah, let's get into the tutorial. So I'm going to make a new composition, and this is the footage I have. Let me mute that and play that. I'll RAM preview it because you do want to cache your video. So you see I have this indoor shot of a messy room, and you see basically I kind of like head towards the bed area slowly like that. Now, if you look at this footage, you see there's like a lot of very small camera shakes. I was doing a lot of these intentionally just to kind of prove a point so you guys can see the difference. I was going handheld, and generally if you don't have like a stabilizing rig or anything, you probably want to use this effect, although it does take up a decent amount of time, and it takes up a decent amount of render time, but whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this effect to kind of like negate all these like little shakes, which, you know, if you're taking it seriously, should probably never be there. Before we actually do this effect, a few things to keep in mind about your footage. To get the best results, be outside. That is probably the most important thing to do. You get more light, you get more reference points, stuff like that. So the more lighting you have, generally the better. Also, the more detail and the less like clutter. Like if you have a bunch of trees, it's gonna work, but it's not gonna be as good. So good lighting, and the second most important thing is a high shutter speed. So basically you have more frozen frames with less motion blur. So I think I was recording this with a 1/160 rolling shutter. So try to do that. If you can't, it's no big deal, but you will get better results. So go to warp stabilizer. I think might be it's in its own window. Yeah, there's a warp stabilizer. So just select your footage and put in a warp stabilizer effect. Now it's automatically going to start analyzing my background. Like it's going to go through frame by frame. While it's doing that, you see there's the progress bar over here. Make sure you're on subspace warp, which is the distortion thing I'm talking about. If you go to advanced, the advanced tab over here, you could put on detailed analysis, which will take longer to calculate, but should typically give you better results. I'm not going to do it because it's just a tutorial, and this shot was pretty shaky anyway, so the longer your shot is, obviously the longer it's going to take to process. If it's taking a really short time to process, that means you don't have much camera shake, which is good. So you can kind of get a sense for how hard it's trying to negate your camera movements. Let's see, it's almost done, like 10 frames to go. Okay, and now goes to step 2 where it stabilizes, and there you go. It is now somewhat stabilized. Now I'm going to RAM preview this, and you might see something kind of weird. Okay, let's let this RAM preview. Okay, so here is our footage. It definitely looks more smoother, but you do see a major problem. As we play this shot, you see this cabinet and other places get really distorted, and it's starting to look really weird, and it's actually drawing attention. So how do you minimize this? Well, basically the only way to do this is to change your smoothness value. Now the smoothness value, basically what it sounds, it's gonna say how smooth do you want a warp stabilizer to be. 0% would mean that it's not doing anything, it's like your original footage, and 100% means that it's negating every single camera movement and it will look really, really weird. Now, while it may seem that 50 is like really low, I mean, all you really need is 25% really, so, unless you have crazy movement, so, you want to keep it on the low end, if you can, so find a good match. I'm going to say 30, and whenever you change it, it has to recalculate, so it's stabilized again, and let's RAM preview this. Now, this should be a bit less smooth, but there should also be a lot less camera distortion. So, let's see. Okay. Yeah, this shot looks really good, so you just want to kind of up the ante until it starts looking weird. So if I go to 35, it's going to stabilize again. Let's see if it looks weird. I mean, if you have a good processor and a lot of RAM, I mean, it won't be too big of a deal to change these values. So 35 looks like it looks a bit shaky. I'm going to bring it back down to 30 because I liked it. Let's let that stabilize again. Okay, sweet. Let's let you guys see that final motion once again. Now, in a second, I'm going to compare the old footage to the new footage, and you'll actually get to see a difference. So there we go. I mean, there's a bit of distortion, but again, this isn't your ideal shot. Most of the time, you'll have slow camera movements and better lighting. I mean, most people shoot outdoors, in which case you'll be good to go. Oh God, G-force. Not now. Okay, so let's go over some of these other settings. Not through all of them, but the important ones. So, probably your most important thing to check is your result. And you have either smooth motion or no motion. And like it sounds, smooth motion smoothens your motion. It's going to do exactly what we just saw. No motion means it's going to try to get rid of all the movement like you're on a tripod. Now, obviously we don't want this because our camera is moving. But let's say you're kind of like holding the camera like this. You don't have a tripod or something to put your camera on. That's when you can go to no motion and it will act like a VFX tripod. So it's very good for that. So make sure you look at your scenario. See if you want either a tripod effect or a dolly smoothing effect. And obviously the methods, you can go for subspace warp or position scale rotation, which basically kind of just rotates and moves your footage to do the exact opposite of your movements and perspective. It tries to track your camera and then smoothen that path out. I wouldn't recommend that. There's really no reason to use that. Obviously, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it. Detailed analysis, pretty obvious. More detail. And I guess that's about it. You can kind of enhance your rolling shutter rippling. Again, if you don't understand the concept of rolling shutter, don't mess with this. Basically, it kind of reduces motion blur. And see now that my hand looks kind of motion blurred and wavy, it's going to stop that. But obviously, I mean, this effect isn't too deep. It works very well. And now I'm going to show you guys the before and after. So let's go to composition settings. 1920 times 2 is 3840. So I'm doubling the length of my composition so I can put my smooth footage here. And let's duplicate this and take off the warp stabilizer. So this is our original footage. So now we got them side to side, almost. Let's get that to fit. And the first thing you're going to notice is that our stabilized footage is zoomed in a bit. You see it starts here at the side of the bed, while on the other one it actually goes to the corner. A reason being, if it's going to distort the edges, it's going to zoom in because the edges will look really weird. You can fix that by enabling synthesized edges, but it's really not worth your time. So, the moment of truth. Let's RAM preview these back to back. Obviously, left one being destabilized. And look at that difference. You can pretty much see every single step on the destabilized one. It really is night and day. I mean, like when you look at the right one alone, you might see a bit of distortion, but for somebody who hasn't seen the clip before, it's gonna look like you have some sort of stabilizing rig, maybe a glide cam, maybe a dolly track. Of course, if you have it outside, you will get awesome. I mean, awesome results. It will look like you just got like a jib or a crane and just got a really awesome shot. So that's really cool. I I can actually zoom that in just a bit. Like, it is really, really good. Like, a really good difference. Of course, if you have more resolution to work with, try to shoot at the highest resolution you can. I just did 1080 because I didn't feel a need to go to my 2K mode. I usually don't go to that because I still want to get that good 30 frames per second. But hopefully, guys, enjoyed this warp stabilizer tutorial. Probably one of like my top 5 most useful effects in After Effects. This is like one of the effects I always go to when I'm going to handheld. Of course, unless of course I'm going for that handheld look. But whatever. So there you go, guys. This is how you fake having some like massive crane stabilizing rig without having that thing. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, good for you. Make sure to share this tutorial around because I think it could be pretty helpful. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.